Merry Christmas, everyone. It's Joshua Reviews, and you need to be right there, okay? You need to be right there. The nerve of some people, I swear. Merry Christmas. So, look, two things. One, I gotta be a little bit quiet. My family's getting ready for Christmas. So, I gotta be a little quiet. But you're gonna receive two little videos today. First and foremost, for those of you who are not aware, I reviewed Black Christmas 2019 back when it came out. For those of you who don't remember the review, I'll give you a little recap. When I first saw the film, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was grand. My opinions have since changed, obviously. I deleted the review because my opinion did change, and I don't think the review best reflected my different view on the film. I'm sorry. So before I get into that, first and foremost, I want to say two things. One, I hope you guys are having a really good Christmas. I hope you guys got everything you wanted, and I hope you guys are, spending time with your friends and family. And if you're not, or if you're doing, what you want to do, or if you're doing something else, then I just hope you guys are enjoying whatever it is you are doing, and just know that I'm wishing you a Merry Christmas. Second, if you don't like this film, I completely understand it. And if you like this film, then good for you. You like this film. So that's pretty much it. So first and foremost, let's get the whole thing out of the way, the elephant in the room. This movie is a remake of Black Christmas. It's not really a good remake because it's not even really telling the same story, is it? Here's the thing, right? You have the original Bob Clark Christmas, which is a staple for slashers. It's arguably the first slasher movie ever made. I think it came out the same day as Texas, but that wasn't really like a slasher per se. It was more of just like, I don't even know what to call it. It was more like a grindhouse film, which I don't even know if grindhouse films are slasher, but who knows? I'm not talking about that. So Black Christmas laid the ground rules for slashers before Halloween. And another thing is that with the remake from 2006, which I like, and I know a lot of other people like, it didn't tell the same story, but it had a lot of elements from the original Black Christmas. It felt like a remake, but, some people didn't like it. I personally did, and that's totally fine. Now we get to 2019 Black. Now, it should be said that this movie, the rights were attained for Black Christmas by Universal Studios in, I think it was January. They wrote a script within a week or two, I think. They filmed it in June and then released it in December the same year. I don't think I've heard something that crazy since the shoot and, rushed production of Friday the 13th Part 7, New Blood, because that film was made in 7 months. It was scary how fast they made that film. But, that's just how it goes in showbiz, I guess. So, all that aside, this is the one that everyone talks about. It's the feminist one. Okay. Look, I have nothing against feminists or any, I don't have any political standpoint on it because I don't know that much about it. All I know is just that everyone, calls this the feminist Black Christmas. It's so easy to see why. I mean, upon rewatching it, I have gained an opinion on it. And the opinion is going to be very, maybe it's unpopular, I don't know. This movie is not well regarded. In fact, most people think this is worse than the 2006 remake, while some people prefer this over it. But most people consider this worse. So I liked it when I first saw it in 2019. I rewatched it. I didn't like it. I seem to just kind of side with all the reviewers. I know this is kind of, probably not interesting to you guys. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just going to get this out of the way. So, rewatching it, what did I think? It's a movie. It's not awful, but there are some awful aspects. And I'll get into that. First and foremost, what do I like? Well, first and foremost, I think for a Rush production, this film is actually, I think it's well shot for the most part. I know most people, Chris Stuckman included, he commented on the cinematography, but cinematography not being my forte when it comes to filmmaking, I don't think it's half bad, especially with how rushed the production of this film was. I don't think it's half bad. I've seen far worse, especially the films that I had to watch earlier this month. You know what I'm talking about, Jack Frost, Nutcracker, all that shit. So I think the cinematography, for the most part, is not bad. I also think that the acting is pretty good. I think for the most part, the actors, do a fine job of what they're given. I don't think anyone does a bad job. There's not one performance and I'm like, oh my God, just like, you're awful. Like, I think everyone knew the assignment and gave it their all, in my opinion. I also think that, this is what I think. It seems like everyone that was on this film seemed like they had a good time filming it. And that's great. I'm glad they had a fun time filming. The director had a vision and she wanted to tell it. And, I totally respect her vision. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the themes. The themes that this movie wants to express and get made clear to the audience is that, men can be douchebags, mainly frat houses, some, and it goes without saying that there are douchebags that exist in frat houses. There are plenty of frat houses out there that totally, I've heard plenty of cases where, there's been sexual abuse and rape going on in frat houses. I mean, that theme has been explored in several other films other than this film. So that doesn't bother me. One thing that people had a problem with was the fact that this movie chose to go with that direction. Now, here's the thing, guys. The original Black Christmas is a feminist film. I just want you to know that. Plenty of films out there are feminist movies, but you don't know it. Especially in the original Black Christmas, the whole movie, side story is about, whether or not the main character Jess should get an abortion or not. Now, that's not necessarily feminist, but it's in that category and it explores themes like that. Plus, it takes place in a freaking sorority house with a bunch of girls. There are themes in that film explored. The movie isn't directly feminist, but it has feminist themes in it. This is a movie that solely focuses on those themes. That's the key difference. And a lot of people didn't like it, and I can totally understand why. And I will be honest, the feminist themes that are explored in this film, I don't think are explored well enough to gain conversation, which is what the director wanted. I know the director, I've seen plenty of interviews, and I've watched a lot of Dead Meat. I know that she wanted to convey a message that was suitable for everyone, and that's totally fine. I think that her goals in mind were well warranted, and I like the direction she wanted to take. Unfortunately, I don't think it was well executed, and here is my biggest problem with the film. The first half, I was actually somewhat enjoying it. I was like, wow, I'm actually somewhat enjoying this. I think the acting is good. I think for the most part, our two main leads are good. The one character I hate in this film is the one friend. I don't think her name is Jess, but it's it's the girl with the curly hair, the black chick. Okay, the black chick. I'm sorry. I that's not me trying to be offensive. I'm just that's all I can really say about her because I didn't really care for her character, so I don't remember her name. So forgive me on that. But what the hell? She was the way she was written was terrible. She was the only one that just was okay. She played the character fine. Her acting was good, but I didn't like her character. She wasn't likable at all. She was just wanting to start arguments with people. She seemed like a person that would be a fan of cancer, or not. I said cancer. I meant to say cancel culture. I don't know why that popped in my head. I'm so sorry. But no, she just seems like a fan of cancel culture, and I don't know how many people out there who are fans of cancel culture, but I'm not one of them, and I don't think the majority of people are. And some of her dialogue just seems like they come straight from Twitter. I'm not gonna, and I know plenty of other people said that, but it's true. Her dialogue is just terrible. But I like the two main leads. I like our main lead. She's likable. You understand why she's feeling this way, and the emotion she's conveying. And I like her character. I also like the little crush she has on the nerdy boy. He's not even a nerd. I'm sorry. I know people are like, oh, throw some glasses on him and just curl the hair up. I have shit hair. That doesn't make me a nerd. So, anyways, I was enjoying it. I was enjoying the first half. There were some themes that were explored, but nothing felt like it was being ham-fisted, at least in my opinion. I know some people felt different, and that's totally fine. The second act, it started to lean more towards it, but then it goes in the more conventional horror route, and I was like, okay, we're a little rough around the edges, but I can get interested. And of course, the characters have that conversation that you see on YouTube, the scene where he's shouting, the boyfriend, and he's like, what did you women expect? Like you went up on stage, singing a song about, and it's that, not all men have power. It's dumb. It's the cringiest scene in the film. No one gets their point across. The dialogue sounds like it's directly from Twitter. It doesn't work, and I'll admit that part was like, oh, that's a turn off. Then it gets better. It starts going more the the home invasion route, which I liked, and I was like, oh, this is getting fun. Okay, it's actually a little intense because I didn't want to see our main character get hurt. We liked her, or at least I liked her. I'm sorry. And then the last act of the movie is where things really, and I mean really, fall apart. It's explained that all the dudes in the frat houses are being possessed, mind controlled by this black goo in this founder's head, like this statue of the founder's head. And it has magical powers that basically let the men be evil and try to kill women so they can take control because they think that women are taking control of shit. Okay, here's my big problem with this, all right? Okay, so your message for the movie is that, there are men out there that are evil, and some men do have more power and authority over women. Okay, that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. I'm open-minded to those arguments. In fact, that is somewhat true. Not all men are good people. I'm not a saint, but I like to consider myself, half decent person. So, I'm open-minded to those, especially for me as a Christian. I'm not perfect. No one is. But here's the problem with this theme, right? The movie wants to explore this theme in particular. That's fine. But one thing I don't get is, okay, so not all men are perfect in this film, right? They're rapists, they're douchebags, but we have our, two guys who are, voice of reason for the most part until they get mind controlled. Yeah, so you mean to tell me that they're being possessed? So none of the actions that they have done are because they're just douchey people. It's just because, they're being possessed. So that means all the douchey people out in the world are being mind controlled. You see what I'm getting at? It kind of ruins the whole, some men are douchebags. It's like, what? Okay, so it's all mind control. It's all supernatural. It feels very forced, and there's really no explanation for it other than a vague villain monologue that the main villain gives that's very just underwhelming and doesn't explain shit. Also that the writing becomes incredibly bad at the end. The main character and her friend, the black chick, they are driving away from the said danger, and the one friend is like, oh my god, what just happened? And she literally explains the plot of the movie. I'm sure you've heard everyone talk about this scene, and it's really bad in terms of writing. It's really bad. But, it's whatever. One key thing I should probably mention is that at the very end of the film, this is spoiler, by the way, if you were interested at all. At the end of the movie, the main character breaks a statue, freeing all the men from their supernatural, mind-controlled state. And they burn the frat house and proceed to trap all the boys who were mind-possessed but are currently not in the frat house to burn alive. What sense does that make? I'm sure not all of those guys in there were, great, but I don't think they deserve to die for being mind controlled. Okay, movie. That makes sense. Like, here's the thing. I think if the movie was just a regular conventional horror film, no one would really bat an eye. I'm sure the film would have just came and went. Hell, I want to see a Black Christmas sequel. I think if Universal gets the chance to make another one, I would want them to do a sequel, kind of like how Halloween 2018 was a direct sequel to the first one. I'd want them to go that route since that's the original idea Bob Clark wanted. So I'd really much like to see that. But, I don't think that'll happen because we have this... But if it was just a more conventional horror film, I don't think anyone would have batted an eye. I think people would have just been like, it came and went, kind of forgot about it. It's not great, but it's okay. But because the movie was rushed to production and to release, and because it explores these themes with a rushed script and rushed production, I don't think it turned out the way the director and the people involved with it wanted it to. And, I'm not one of those douchebags on the internet that just says, oh, fuck that. I have my fair share of moments where I do that. Of course, I don't like Rob Zombie's 2, and I hate that film, and I will continue to criticize the hell out of it. But when I see stuff like this, and I understand the mindset of what they were trying to go for, I feel bad because I want them to succeed. I want them to make a movie that can be enjoyed by all, but also get, a political message across. Like, if a movie wants to go up the political route, that's totally fine, as long as it's open-ended. It's like anyone can watch it and understand its messages. Like the movie The Hunt. That movie doesn't pick a side. It's about Republicans versus Democrats, but they're both made fun of in a way that doesn't feel like it's picking a side. And I don't think they really succeeded in what they were trying to go for in this film. I think the first half and second half are decent. In fact, I'd probably say they're like a solid, solid B. It's good. And then it just kind of goes downhill from there. So that's my lengthy review. This is easily the longest review I've done because I had a lot to say. Sorry if you got offended by this review. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Don't try to pretend you are. I'm sorry. But you may be surprised that I am not going to give this film an F nor a D. I'm going to give it a C- because there are things in this film that I think are good. I just think that ultimately they did not succeed in the goals they wanted to achieve. So that's my thoughts on Black Christmas 2019. Merry Christmas. Stay tuned for the next review very soon because Christmas month is almost over.